Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Caitlin Clark has done for the women's NBA what Michael Jordan once did for the NBA. Made it more valuable, watchable, and marketable. Since she joined the league last year, Ms. Clark's impact has been seismic.
What if I told you the WNBA's biggest star might be at the center of a federal civil rights investigation? Caitlin Clark isn't just raising ratings, she's being targeted, absorbing 17% of all flagrant fouls in the league, more than double anyone else. And the Wall Street Journal says that could be illegal. This isn't just about missed calls or hard fouls. We're talking hostile work environment claims, possible DOJ involvement, and even Congress stepping in. The question is, how did it get this far, and what happens if the league is found guilty?
Merchandise sales soared 601%. Indiana Fever viewership jumped 170%. The team's value tripled. Mystics co-owner Sheila Johnson questioned Ms. Clark's 2024 Time Athlete of the Year recognition. Ms. Clark shattered fan vote records with 1.29 million all-star votes. They said this is where they're going now. Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment, and the evidence provides reasonable cause for a federal probe.
How does a player who just exploded your ratings by 366% end up being the league's biggest legal risk? Caitlin Clark hasn't even finished her rookie season, and yet she's managed to flip the WNBA into primetime viewing. Before she showed up, Fever games weren't in the national spotlight like this. Now they're pulling in audiences that rival playoff numbers, ticket prices have jumped, and arenas are packed even in away games just to watch her play. It's not just numbers on a screen. Clark's presence feels like an event. People who never watched the WNBA before are suddenly tuning in. Kids are wearing her jersey, and still, in the middle of all this hype, there's a brutal stat you can't ignore. She's absorbing 17% of every flagrant foul called this season. Think about that. One player out of an entire league taking nearly a fifth of the flagrant shots. The average rate across other players? Nowhere close. Most don't even hit 3 or 4%. That's where the picture gets strange. You'd expect the biggest draw in the league to get extra protection, more eyes from referees, tighter calls, but her foul numbers are way out of line, and they're taking a toll. Clark's already missed games from hits that could have been avoided. Every time she's out, the ratings take a nosedive. The All-Star game took one of the hardest hits. Without her, viewership dropped by more than half compared to the year before. Clark's addressed it herself. She said opponents are getting away with things against her they wouldn't try with others. That's not a subtle complaint, that's a call out. And here's where it gets interesting.
The golden child in her second year in the league, who was top 4 in MVP voting last year, the assist leader last year, such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others that man is not going to say something? You don't think Caitlin Clark could become an issue of national, potentially international, and definitely federal proportions?
She's not the only one saying it. Veteran Sophie Cunningham has hinted that she sees it. Diamond DeShields has pointed out the difference in how Clark is officiated. When players on opposing teams start nodding to the same pattern, you can't write it off as just media hype. The footage backs it up. Take the Mabry shove. Clark is in motion, off balance, and gets sent flying with no call fitting the force. Or the JC Sheldon eye poke. That one looked accidental, but still dangerous, and these moments keep stacking. If this is normal physical play, then the tolerance level for contact on her is set way beyond the average. So why isn't the league stepping in? This isn't just a star player, and this is the financial engine for the entire season. Merchandise, sponsorship deals, TV ratings, they're all leveraging her popularity, and yet, game after game, the risk to her health stays high. If Clark were to miss extended time, the immediate damage to the league's bottom line would be obvious.
Sophie Cunningham told the Wall Street Journal she's Caitlin Clark's teammate, the Indiana Fever. The star player of the league is not being protected. We're going to go back to what I said. Let me regurgitate my comments. Since she joined the league last year, immediately had charter flights. Merchandise sales soared 601%. Rebecca Lobo, analyst, ESPN. What does she say? every single one of those plays against Caitlin Clark has been a foul.
But now there's a bigger, more dangerous layers. The Wall Street Journal has already drawn the line between what's happening and the federal definition of a hostile work environment. In workplace law, if repeated harmful conduct is being allowed or ignored, especially toward one person, it can move into civil rights territory. That's not a sports regulation. That's legal ground with serious teeth. So if that's the case, and if this pattern is real, then we're not just talking about protecting a star player anymore. The next question could decide the fate of the whole league. What happens if the authorities decide to push this to the nuclear level? Picture this: the WNBA isn't just facing a social media storm or a room full of reporters. Instead, imagine league executives sitting under bright lights in a congressional hearing, with lawmakers holding stacks of internal emails, reading aloud every comment, every forwarded message, and every decision made about Caitlin Clark. That's not a post-game interview, that's sworn testimony, and there's no calling a timeout. The Wall Street Journal laid out a path that makes this sound less like a pipe dream and more like a real possibility. They pointed to legal frameworks that have been used before in workplace cases. One is Harris versus Forklift Systems. That case set the standard for proving a hostile work environment, showing the conduct didn't have to break someone physically to be illegal. It just had to be severe or pervasive enough to change the conditions of the job. Another is Texas Department of Community Affairs versus Burdine, which covers disparate treatment. If an employee gets treated differently because of a protected status, it crosses into discrimination. Apply that in a sports context. Clark's treatment on the court, especially if tied to bias or lack of equal protection, could fit those criteria. If those arguments sound strong enough, the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division gets a seat at the table. They have direct authority over workplace discrimination claims, even in pro sports. At the same time, the Department of Labor can look into workplace safety. For athletes, the workplace is the court, and that means repeated dangerous play without proper officiating could technically fall under their jurisdiction. There's also the political pressure building. Senator Jim Banks has already sent a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert asking straight up for answers about how Clark has been treated. And those letters are never just for reading. They're part of a paper trail that could justify a full congressional review. Here's where the money comes in. If Congress gets involved and wants to go after the league's structure, they can look at the WNBA's antitrust and broadcast protections. Losing antitrust exemptions for a sports league is a nightmare scenario. It opens the door for new competition, forces them to share the market differently, and disrupts long-term scheduling agreements. Negotiated media deals could get thrown back on the table, meaning TV money slows or disappears. Now think about what happens if subpoenas go out. Internal communications would be fair game. Any directive from coaches, league staff, or executives that hints at targeting Clark or simply tolerating dangerous play against her becomes evidence. Once those emails see daylight, the fight shifts from sports pages to national headlines. If legal protections fall and negative findings stick, the whole league's business model shakes. Sponsors don't want to be tied to discrimination cases. Elite players might hesitate to join or even ask for trades to avoid the mess. And international talent, they could sign elsewhere rather than risk their careers in a league battling federal investigations. This isn't about a foul call anymore. This is about a chain reaction that could take the WNBA from steady growth to instability overnight. If the feds decide there's merit to the claims, it could be the most serious threat the league has faced since it was created. So now the question hangs in the air. Does the WNBA see this as the moment to protect the star who has reset the entire market? Or do they roll the dice and hope the heat dies down before the system closes in? The WNBA is standing at a fork in the road. They can step in, protect the player who has transformed their audience, and show every athlete they value safety and fairness. Or they can gamble, keep running things the same way, and risk losing the legal shields that protect their business. You should keep an eye on this. Watch every league move, every public comment, and every official decision from here, because this is more than a debate over basketball rules now. It's about civil rights, federal law, and whether an entire league can survive the storm that's building.